Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Steven here from Epicurean Smokes. Today I want to talk to you about smoke evacuation systems in your home smoking lounge. So I'm going to give you a little rundown about what I use in my lounge. I'm in a shed of sorts. It's well enclosed. I've got power. It's built as part of my home, but it's outside so that the smoke doesn't travel. But it required a little bit of modification when I decided to use it for this purpose. Attic fans are really helpful to me in my setup. And so because I already had a permanent style shed that had ventilation in the side of the shed, I was able to use standard size, and I'll put a link in the description, and I'll put a little picture up for you. Standard size attic fans. I have one on the far end as an air intake, and I have one in the middle next to me and one to the back as air outflow. Each of them has 2 fans, and they are Wi-Fi enabled, so I can control them on my phone. And so the beauty of that is that if I want to bring the audio kind of to a better level for recording, I can lower them all on my phone and not have to kind of fiddle with them individually. So that's been really helpful. But in terms of kind of keeping like laminar flow in the smoke movement, I've been using a small desk fan to create cross ventilation to move the smoke towards those attic fans. Because even with good air movement, the smoke will still kind of collect around you. And here with my green screen around me, I'm kind of enclosed, right? I'm hotboxing myself if I don't manage that. And so the center of the room has an air purification system, but air purifiers can only do so much to a large plume of cigar smoke. So I had an idea about adding a smoke evacuation system, and I got this idea as I was browsing through online retailers, as I do, and I saw a setup that was intended for certain types of grow rooms. And so I ordered some stuff. I'm going to do an unboxing with you of all of the goodies and show you how I add it to my existing system to create a really streamlined smoke evacuation system for my cigar room. The idea is basically taking an inline duct fan and repurposing it for moving air from an inside smoking space directly outside. So we'll get into some of these boxes. All right. So the first component here is a 4-inch splitter. So I'm doing this because I have kind of where I sit, I have shelving, and so if I put the air exhaust kind of up on the top shelf, it'll be a little too high. If I put it on the next shelf, it'll be a little too low. So I decided that I'd kind of want both. So I'm going to do 2 sets of 4-inch exhaust, and that was one of the reasons why I went with this specific duct fan that I'll show you when we get it opened, because this one can move over 200 cubic foot per minute, so it's a good candidate for being able to split with this type of diverter. Let's see what we have in this one. And so these are 4-inch hose clamps so that we can clamp hoses there. So this is from VIVOSUN also, which is the company that makes the duct fan. And so while I was cruising on their Amazon page, I picked up also a, how much of this did I get? I think this is like 20 feet or so of, 25 feet of 4-inch duct. So that's that kind of, you see it on your like dryer, that type of metal duct. And then this big guy must be the actual fan. All right, here he is. Let's see what else we got in here. I don't remember what I bought. Okay, so this set comes with some duct connector. I think it comes with only 2. And because I'm doing this converter to have essentially more controllable exhaust, I bought the additional hose clamps. Also, hose clamps that require like a screwdriver to turn them just kind of are an extra step for me. And they now make these like key hose clamps where you just turn the key. Seemed easier. This is some additional lighting, which I'm going to use for my green screen, so we don't need to go over that. Let's take a look at the VIVOSUN. So VIVOSUN makes different sizes and configurations of their inline duct fans. This one is kind of a mid-range model. They make smaller models with simpler types of controls. So you can have ones that simply plug in and have single speed. You can have ones that plug in that have a dial on the side of the actual device. So it's controllable, but it's only controllable at the unit. You have ones like this where there's 10 feet, I think, of control with a controller. And it's like I think it's a 1 through 10 kind of control system where you have different speed settings. That seemed most logical to me. So I wanted the speed to still be adjustable from where I sit in the shed. They also have a really fancy unit that is compatible with like Bluetooth, so you can operate it from a phone app. I have that type of a system for my attic fans out there, the intake and the exhaust fans that I'll show you when we get out there. But I think that there's only so many things I want to control from my phone. And so right now I have some of my lighting that is Bluetooth enabled. I have some of my intake and exhaust fans that are Bluetooth enabled. And so if I can have something that's kind of external to my phone, that seems better. So we have the actual controller here. So it's a lot smaller than I expected actually, but it's okay. So it's a small controller and it comes with a wall mount, so you can put a screw and mount it there. And it has settings to either cycle or create a setting for just a level, numerical level. And then there she is. So in here is the cable. So this is essentially just a USB-C cable that the controller goes on the end of, like that. And then this unit has just kind of a long 110 volt on the end and a USB-C connector to match this. And so it's pretty simple. It's just a directional fan. On the top it's got an arrow of the direction, and if we remove the cardboard inside, there's a fan. And so we'll be able to use our duct hosing to clamp on here. Once I move it away from the wall, I will do a splitter here to move it to the 2 sections that I want to create ventilation to, and then I'll run some additional duct there. So I'll need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clamps. I think their kit comes with, oh, actually their kit didn't come with any, did it? Yeah. I realized that this one is a flange. So I bought this flange because I have an existing exhaust vent and it's raised. And so it's flush on the side that connects to the vent on the wall. And so being that it's raised, I wanted to kind of create a wood platform around to support this, and then be able to have the duct hose right over this flange connected so that it is somewhat flush. I'm not going to put it right on it because it needs some airflow. I don't want it to be like obstructed just sitting flat on it. but this will give me the ability to use pieces of wood to go over that side of the outflow fan. This 4-inch setup is much smaller. It's about half the size of the outflow fan because it's a dual fan setup. So this will be over half of it. And so to create a system that is a little less janky and more secure, I added this to the cart. So we're going to go from 4-inch flange, connector, hose, out to this to the device itself, then split it downstream. And I think that'll give me the effect I'm looking for to exhaust this smoke almost directly outside, and also retain the function of the other 50% of that exhaust fan, exhausting the ambient air. So that, with an air purification system, an air intake system, and yet another exhaust fan, will create plenty of air movement to prevent smoke stagnation in my smoking space. So let's get in there and get it installed. All right, here we are at the workbench. We're going to make some cuts on some plywood so that we have a backing for the piece of metal that we're going to mount our duct to. I've already got it marked off, made some rough measurements, and I think this should work just fine. All right, so I'm no cigar carpenter, but this will do its purpose of providing us a framework for this to sit on. So this will come across the top of the outflow. This will be supporting in between. We'll use, let's see, there's a crack there, so we'll use this side. And then this will support along the bottom. Use it like this. So that'll be our framework for this to rest on. And then we'll use just some plain drywall screws to kind of tack this in on its edge when we get in there. I'm going to drill out a pilot hole for the mounting screw that I'm going to use for this. So I've got some bits for that. All right, let's see how it fits. So here we are back in the shed, and we are behind the green screen. So you can see what we've got going on with this exhaust fan. So this is an exhaust fan that is mounted directly over a vent, just a plain flat vent in the back of the shed. I have 2 of these set up as an exhaust. So they're blowing out, and I have a third one on the far end that is set up blowing in. They're pretty cool, actually. They come with temperature sensor, humidity sensor, and they're Bluetooth enabled, so you can control them from your phone. They hook up to your Wi-Fi, so you can, kind of blow the air out of your shed for an amount of time, and you don't have to be in the shed to control them. So you can control them from the house, make your adjustments as you need. They're also programmable, so you can program in timing and things like that if you have a really set schedule like that. I have pre-threaded my pieces of wood here. I'm going to reach in. This is not an easy to access part of the shed, so I'm up on a chair and angled over some shelving, but this is the most kind of streamlined way for me to get this installed without it being kind of in my way. All right, so we got one piece of wood there. We'll mount this way. And we have another piece of wood here that will mount this way. And then got a divider. All right, so it's not pretty, but now I've got a vent outflow affixed over the exhaust there. And that's gonna allow me to attach the 4-inch tubing that will eventually get connected up to this inline fan, this inline exhaust fan that we're installing. So do that next. All right, so here's that tubing. If any of you have done installation of kind of the same material for a dryer vent, you know you gotta stretch it a little bit like driving a Cadillac into a doghouse. So that is attached with our hose clamp there, nice and snug. So not going anywhere. All right, so now we've got a space here set up with our inline fan, and we're gonna make sure that we've got our outflow direction kind of facing toward the outflow. And that'll work. And then we'll cut our vent duct to end here and then continue it out on this side, but split so that I get one flow below, one flow above. All right, so we got our hose clamp in place here, nice and tightened. For this job, I bought 25 feet of the tubing, and I think that'll be sufficient, but it's relatively inexpensive, so if you're uncertain about how much you'll need, just get extra. Like, it's almost negligible cost difference. Just get whatever length you think you might need, and if you have extra, that's fine. I'm stretching out the cord here for the actual controller there, and I had my screw there next to it, and that let me know that there's a magnet in there, so that's kind of cool. So you could just very easily mount it on something or put a screw in and use it that way, so that's nice. All right, so I've got the unit turned on, and I'm gonna start turning it up to see how it sounds. On the lowest setting, I can't even hear it. I'm gonna turn off my air purifier because I think it's so much quieter. Okay, we'll go up. And I've got my hand over the end of the vent checking the draw, and it's like it's creating suction against my hand where I'm touching the open end of these lines. Let's just ramp it up here, halfway up. I can hear the unit kick on a little more. Yeah, that's got some great draw. So currently it's still quieter than any of the other systems I have in here to move air. And then kick it on all the way. Yeah, that's pretty quiet. That's nice. And it's got a fantastic draw. Like, if I put my hand near it, it's like suctioning my hand to the tubing. So this, as an inline fan, is going to move some good volume of air up to the outflow there. And I can still operate my controls manually here if I want to, and do it that way, or I could do it from my phone. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. That's cool. Okay, and so I've got one line going down to the lower shelf right where I sit, and one kind of over my head. So the last piece of this project, I'm going to turn this back down so you can hear me more clearly. But the last piece of this project will be to install a vent cover over the end of this conduit. Otherwise, it'll suck in like everything, dust, debris, and all of that. So that'll be the last piece, and it'll just be like a simple mesh cover over the end. So we'll test it with a cigar shortly. I hope you enjoyed that. I think that for any of you who may have a similar setup, smoke sheds are not that uncommon in our cigar community. This may give you some ideas about how you can optimize your smoke movement so that you're not spending so much time just like hotboxing yourself in your shed, especially throughout the winter. So as always, I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks so much. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Bye.